We talk about essential industries, right?
Hmm.
And pulp and paper, it doesn't exactly spring to mind for most people, but this deep dive, looking into pulp technician roles, I gotta say, it's got me thinking differently about what goes on behind the scenes of something we use every single day.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens, The name alone, Pulp Technician, it doesn't exactly scream high tech or anything, but the resources you pulled for this, they paint a very different picture.
Totally. Like at first glance, you might think, oh, feeding trees into a machine, but it's so much more than that.
Right. It's not just lumberjacking 2.0 or something. The level of problem solving involved, the optimization, even data analysis. Pretty impressive for a job most folks wouldn't even think twice about.
And that's what I found so interesting. We've got these breakdowns of what someone at the entry level, then junior, then senior level is doing.
Yeah.
There's a real career path there, but you see the demands change too.
And the amount of knowledge you need to have, definitely. Which actually, that brings up something that was consistent across all these sources. You got to be able to adapt in this field.
Yeah, because it's not your grandpa's pulp mill anymore, is it? Even just skimming the industry trends report, it's clear that automation, robotics, that's becoming the norm.
And the outlook for jobs is good, don't get me wrong, but it's those who are comfortable with that tech, who can learn new skills, those are the ones who will really thrive, it seems.
So it's like the industry itself is pushing for people to upskill, which is kind of cool.
It is, and there's this underlying factor pushing it all, too, that we have to mention. Sustainability. This isn't just about keeping up with robots, it's about doing it all in a way that's less wasteful, more efficient.
And that takes us beyond just like the tech side of things, right?
Yeah.
Because these sources didn't shy away from the fact that a pulp mill, it's a demanding work environment.
Yeah, you got to be a certain kind of person, I think, to handle it day in and day out.
For sure. I mean, they describe it as noisy, you're on your feet a lot, operating heavy machinery.
And safety is paramount, obviously, so someone who's not comfortable with that aspect, it might not be the best fit.
Totally. But you know what really stood out to me, especially seeing that operations monitoring listed in the functions and core ability section?
Yeah.
What does that actually mean in this context? Like, what are they monitoring?
So you're talking about the production line constantly, basically. Watching the equipment, making sure everything's running smoothly. And if it's not, you need to spot the problem before it becomes a big problem.
So it's a lot of pressure.
In a way, yeah. You need that technical knowledge for sure, but also real attention to detail. And you got to be able to make quick decisions, informed ones to keep everything moving.
So it's definitely not just about the hands-on stuff. You need some serious brain power too.
Mm.
And speaking of using that brain power, let's talk about the career path here. We've got this progression, right?
Yeah.
Entry level, up to junior technician, then all the way to senior that people. What are we looking at between those stages? What actually changes?
Well, when you're first starting out, entry level, it's a lot of learning the ropes. You're assisting the more experienced folks, getting comfortable with the equipment, the pace of everything, really just building that foundation.
Okay, so it's very much like watch and learn at that point.
Yeah, you need to absorb everything you can. But once you hit junior technician, that's when they start giving you more responsibility. You're not just watching anymore, you're troubleshooting, doing more in-depth maintenance, really starting to own your part of the process.
So that's got to feel good, right? Like you're trusted to handle things more independently.
For sure. That's where you get to apply all that knowledge you picked up early on. But then that jump to senior technician, that's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, how so?
Well, a senior technician, they're not just an expert on the machines, they're thinking about the whole picture, the long game. We're talking about developing maintenance schedules so there's minimal downtime, analyzing all that production data to find bottlenecks, things to improve, even mentoring those junior technicians, bringing them up.
So it becomes a lot more strategic at that senior level.
Exactly. And you mentioned data analysis earlier. I have to say, that's not something I would have pictured a pulp technician doing, say, 10 years ago.
Right. It's like spreadsheets and wood pulp, they don't usually go together.
But in this day and age, it's becoming so crucial. Senior technicians are using that data to make decisions about everything from how efficient the equipment's running to, how they're using resources. It's all about finding patterns, identifying trends, basically making the whole operation smarter.
It really drives home how important it is to be adaptable, to keep learning new skills, just like we were talking about earlier.
100%. The best in this field, they're not afraid of technology. They embrace it. And, for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, senior pulp technician, that's the goal. What can they do? Based on these sources, getting those certifications, that's huge.
So, what? Give us some examples.
Yeah. Well, Things like confined space entry, predictive maintenance, even root cause analysis. Having those on your resume, it shows you're serious, that you're going deeper than just the basics.
It's proof you've got the knowledge, right?
Exactly. But it's not all about the technical side either. Don't underestimate those soft skills. Communication, teamwork, being able to problem solve. Those are always valuable, but especially in a pulp mill where it's fast-paced, you need everyone on the same page.
Because it's one thing to understand how a machine works, but if you can't explain what's wrong with it or work with a team to fix it, that's a whole other problem.
Oh.
So we've established great career path, lots of potential, BUT, getting your foot in the door, that job search, it can be a beast, right?
Oh, absolutely. Even when you know there are jobs out there, it can feel overwhelming.
And that's where having something like RoleCatcher, I got to say, it can make a world of difference. Their interview prep stuff, it's seriously top-notch.
I've been using it myself, and the database of practice questions, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're tailored to this specific role, like you're not wasting time on generic interview stuff. You're getting into the nitty-gritty of what a pulp technician hiring manager wants to hear.
And you know what else is super helpful? For Copilot subscribers, that AI feedback, it's like having a personal coach helping you fine-tune your answers. It really is. Taking you from like, oh my gosh, I'm terrified of this interview, to, okay, I've got some talking points. I know what they're going to ask.
It's all about being prepared, right? And that goes back to adaptability RoleCatcher. It gives you the tools to adapt, to highlight the skills that matter for each job. Because what we focused on today, that's just one example.
And it makes you think, right, how many other jobs are out there where the name doesn't tell you the whole story?
Exactly. Like someone might see Pulp Technician and just keep scrolling, but as we've clearly established, there's a lot more to it.
It's a reminder, I think, to be curious. To look beyond the surface. Think about your skills in different ways. What might you be qualified for that you'd never even considered?
Couldn't agree more. Sometimes the most unexpected path is the one that leads you to the right destination.
It's so true. Well, this has been fascinating, to say the least. Pulp and paper, who knew there was so much to learn.
Right. And honestly, I think we just scratched the surface. But it's a good reminder that these industries, they aren't standing still. Things are changing constantly, getting more high-tech.
And for anyone listening who's in a field that seems, I don't know, maybe a little behind the times, just remember, that might be where the opportunity is, if you're willing to learn, to adapt, like we were talking about.
Sky's the limit.
Well said. This has been a great deep dive. Really got the gears turning.
Absolutely. Until next time, everyone, keep exploring and keep learning.